On August 25, 1930, in the grey industrial city of Edinburgh, a boy was born who would one day change the face of cinema. His name was Thomas Sean Connery. To millions, he was James Bond, the suave, unshakable agent 007.
Bond. James Bond.
To Hollywood, he was a rebel, a fighter, a man who defied the studios that tried to control him. And to those who truly knew him, he was more than a star. He was a craftsman, a family man, and a proud Scotsman whose roots shaped everything he became. Now in 2025, on what would have been his 95th birthday, we look back not only at the legend, but at the man, exploring the untold stories, the hidden struggles, and the controversies that defined Sean Connery's extraordinary life. This is not simply a story of James Bond. This is the story of how a working-class boy became a king of cinema, and why his legacy still casts a shadow across Hollywood today. Born into poverty, his father Joseph was a factory worker, and his mother Euphemia a cleaning woman. The Connery family lived in a cramped Edinburgh tenement, with little money and fewer prospects. From a young age, Sean learned the value of hard work. At just 9 years old, he was already delivering milk to help support the family. He often recalled those years with pride, insisting that poverty taught him resilience. He once said, "I grew up with nothing, so I learned to appreciate everything." But there was more to young Sean than hardship. He possessed natural athleticism, tall, broad-shouldered, and disciplined. He joined the Royal Navy as a teenager. Yet fate intervened. A medical condition, stomach ulcers, forced his discharge. It was a devastating blow, but it set him on a different path. He took odd jobs, lifeguard, coffin polisher, even a nude model for art classes, before finding his way to bodybuilding. And it was there, through fitness competitions, that his striking looks and presence first caught attention. But Hollywood was still far away. Connery's first step into acting was humble, as a stagehand at the King's Theatre in Edinburgh. Slowly, opportunity opened. An audition for a small role led to more roles. And before long, Sean Connery, the boy from the slums, had discovered the stage. By the late 1950s, Connery had appeared in small British films and television dramas. He was gaining momentum, but nothing hinted at the world-changing role just ahead. In 1962, producers Harry Saltzman and Albert "Cubby" Broccoli were preparing to launch a film adaptation of Ian Fleming's novels. They needed the perfect James Bond, charming yet dangerous, sophisticated yet physical. Actors like Cary Grant and David Niven were considered, but Grant was too expensive and Niven too old. The producers turned their eyes to Sean Connery, a relatively unknown, rugged actor with undeniable presence. At first, Fleming himself was skeptical. Connery lacked the polished refinement of Bond. He was working class, Scottish, and far from the aristocratic spy of the novels. But when Fleming's wife saw Connery on screen, she reportedly said, "He's got it. That's Bond." And so Connery was cast in Dr. No. The film was a gamble. No one knew if audiences would embrace this new kind of spy. But from the moment Connery uttered those immortal words,
Bond. James Bond.
the success was explosive. Suddenly, Sean Connery was not just a star, he was a phenomenon. The 1960s belonged to Bond, and Connery was the face of it all. But behind the scenes, tensions brewed. Connery clashed with producers over money and creative control. He felt exploited as the films raked in fortunes, while he was paid a fraction. The suave exterior of James Bond masked a man increasingly frustrated with Hollywood's grip. And so began Connery's lifelong struggle to escape the shadow of Bond while honoring the role that made him. For many actors, being Bond would have been enough. But Sean Connery wanted more. He feared being typecast, doomed to play the same suave spy forever. He pursued roles that challenged him, gritty dramas, historical epics, and even experiments with stage acting. Yet the shadow of 007 followed him everywhere. Audiences and critics struggled to see beyond the tuxedo and martini. Still, Connery fought. In The Hill, 1965, directed by Sidney Lumet, he played a brutalized prisoner in a military prison camp. The role was a far cry from Bond, and critics praised his raw, fearless performance. It was proof that Connery was more than a franchise star. He was a serious actor. But Hollywood politics were unforgiving. Connery became known for his stubborn independence. He turned down roles he felt compromised his integrity. He clashed with directors, producers, even journalists. Some called him difficult, others called him principled. One thing was clear: Sean Connery was not a man who would be controlled. Behind the fame, Sean Connery was a man of contradictions. He was fiercely private, rarely indulging in Hollywood parties. He valued his Scottish identity above all, often speaking in his natural accent even when advised not to. He donated to Scottish causes and supported the movement for independence. Yet he was also a man surrounded by controversy. Some interviews revealed attitudes that later drew criticism, especially regarding gender roles. Critics accused him of being old-fashioned, even problematic, but friends painted a more complex picture. On set, Connery was known for kindness toward crew members. He respected working-class people because he never forgot where he came from. Many recalled his loyalty, his sense of humor, and his generosity, qualities often hidden behind the tough public persona. Connery himself once admitted, "I am not Bond. I never was Bond. I am Sean Connery, and I'm still figuring out what that means." By the late 1970s, Connery's career seemed to wane. Bond had both made him and trapped him, but he was not finished. In 1987, he roared back with the Untouchables, playing an Irish cop mentoring Kevin Costner's Elliot Ness. The role won him the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. It was the validation Connery had long deserved, proof that he was more than Bond, more than a star. He was an actor of enduring power. He followed with another triumph, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. As Professor Henry Jones Sr., Connery brought warmth and wit, redefining his career for a new generation. Fans who knew him only as Bond now saw him as the ultimate movie father figure. And then came The Rock, where Connery played a rogue ex-spy. The performance was a wink at his Bond past, but with grit and age-worn authority. Audiences loved it. Connery had reinvented himself once again. These comebacks cemented his reputation as a legend, not just of one role, but of an entire era of cinema. By the early 2000s, Sean Connery began to step away from the screen. After a troubled production on The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, 2003, he announced his retirement. He spent his later years quietly, living in the Bahamas, enjoying golf, family, and the privacy he had always craved. He made occasional appearances, but largely remained out of the spotlight. On October 31st, 2020, Sean Connery passed away in his sleep at age 90. The world mourned. Tributes poured in from fans, fellow actors, and even political leaders. For many, it felt like the end of an era, yet his legacy endured, not only in the Bond films, but in the countless roles that showed his depth, his charisma, and his unyielding spirit. And now in 2025, we mark what would have been Sean Connery's 95th birthday. What remains is not only the image of James Bond, tuxedo, gun, martini in hand, but also the story of a man who defied Hollywood, who demanded respect, and who lived life on his own terms. Sean Connery's journey from the slums of Edinburgh to global superstardom is more than a rags-to-riches story. It is a reminder that greatness often comes not from privilege, but from persistence, from struggle, from refusing to bow. As audiences, we still hear his voice, rich and commanding. We still see his stride, confident and unshakable, and we still feel the weight of his presence, reminding us of a time when movie stars were larger than life, and when one man could redefine cool forever. Sean Connery may be gone, but his legend is not finished. For every new generation discovering The Untouchables, or Indiana Jones, he lives again. And so, on his 95th birthday, we say, Happy birthday, Sir Sean Connery. The world of cinema is forever in your debt.